Hi, this is Kevin Dio from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about the most powerful receiver ever made. Okay, look, that was kind of clickbait. I did that on purpose to annoy a bunch of guys that know better. I know that it's not the most powerful. The most powerful receiver was the Technics SA1000. It was 330 watts per channel. This is 300 watts per channel, blah, 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 blah. But still, I wanted to do something about this because I got this receiver and I couldn't I've got a 2600 that is gorgeous right now. It's over in my office across the street. But then I heard about this one and that it has the original box. And I wanted to do an unboxing video for you. But just like that the Marantz 2 video I did, disaster awaited. I'm going to give you a tip. If you ever buy a piece of vintage gear or sell a piece of vintage gear, do not ship it without bagging the product, because cardboard will act like sandpaper and remove all the fascia. And the foam insert on this thing, it was literally stuck to this receiver. Here's the box. So while we were trying to get things done, it turned into like some emergency thing. I said, come and grab it. You know, I had 3 guys. It was a shit show. Anyway, so I want to thank my friend Jeff Dorgay from Tone Audio. You probably know his magazine. He's the dude that saw this and said, I know Kevin's a Marantz nut, and I'm going to tell him about it. Thank you, Jeff. So what is it about this thing? What is it? Is it because it was 300 watts per channel? It was back then. Was it because it had really low distortion? It was back then, but not so much now, because now we've learned that all of that stuff was kind of bullshit, and it was a way to sell things, and it was a lot of marketing. And now we know that some of my most favorite amplifiers today are 45 watts per channel, you know, and by the way, they might have somewhere just under 1% of distortion, and they sound incredible. So all the stuff that was being sold to us is, you know, eventually after working in this business, this came out in 78. I was working in this business in 78. And we learned that what was true and what was not true, but still, it's a bitchin' receiver. I love it. I want to just go over a couple of the functions for you, okay? All right. Over here, you've got a muting. I want to explain things in case you don't know them. This is the muting and quartz button. And what is that about? If you push it in, that's going to allow you to listen to all the crappy stations that are in between the stations. You know, the muting is only going to allow you to listen to the best stations. If you want to be able to listen to things that are in between because for some reason you want to hear them, turn this off and it's going to let you do that. This is the multiplex noise filter. What's that about? It's a filter that takes the very top end and it mixes the signal to mono. So you still have stereo. To your ears, you might not even hear a big difference, but it sure is going to get rid of some noise. And by the way, this multiplex filter is an advanced way of I don't want to get too propeller head, but it is a different way to handle that than had been done previously. Loudness contour, okay, we know about that. These are the filters. Now this is kind of cool because again, this was not about power and low distortion. This was about pushing the envelope in other areas. This is the 9 kilohertz filter for top end. And what they did was it has a very sharp slope. So it will get rid of the noise without affecting the rest of the music as much. It's an 18 dB per octave slope. The Technics SA1000, I don't think I thought it was 12 dB per octave, but it was the circuitry inside that they had designed where you could use these filters without as much negative effect. You know, sometimes when you use a high frequency filter, you can end up just getting a ringing for what is remaining, I guess. It can make it sound harsh. And then the bass is about 15 hertz, as I recall. And again, that's 18 dB per octave, 18 dB per octave. That's cool because you can get rid of the bass that's most likely going to cause you acoustic feedback, that's most likely going to maybe get your woofers going too crazy. And when they do that, they are unable to do their real thing, which is really, really good and tight and realistic bass response. When you've got a woofer fluttering all over the place, it's not going to do what you want it to do. And so both of these filters were new advanced designs. Oh man, all right, there's the balance. Okay, let's talk about this tuner and what that all was about. It's not just looking cool, though I think most people that bought this probably didn't use it the right way. They did it because of the dancing lights, because we all love that stuff, right? We love gyro touch tuning. So what's it about? Okay, Multipath is to help you position your antenna. If you remember, old people remember that back in the day, we would be watching Leave It to Beaver, and you would have the picture on the screen, and then you would have something called ghosting. And it would look like there's something just wandering off the picture, off to the right. And it looked horrible, and it messed up the picture. And what that was is you had a direct signal going from the transmitter to your antenna, but then you had secondary signals that were bouncing around the mountains, or if you lived in a big city, bouncing off the skyscrapers and stuff. And it creates multipaths. So what do you do about that? You manipulate your antenna. Or maybe you buy a BIC beambox. That's what the BIC beambox was about. You had controls to use this element, or this element, or this element, or this element, and hopefully ignore other areas. And with the hope of reducing multipath. I've got one in the back. In fact, my guys are so lucky. I give them a vintage Marantz receiver and big old BIC Venturi speakers back in the warehouse to rock and roll, right? Now, unfortunately, they took it down, and I never did find out why. All right, this is the tuning display. This is about getting right in the center. So you have, so you're not wandering out this way. You're just fine-tuning it to be dead on the station. There's other things that you can do with it, like looking to see if your FM, the FM channel that you're listening to is breaking FCC rules by overmodulating and crap like that people never, ever used. And then you have Audioscope, and man, people love that because it was just a light show when you turn the music up and you'd smoke your weed and take your Quaaludes or whatever it is you were doing, and you'd look at the lights and listen to whatever it is you were listening to. And you have an adjustment to fine-tune the brightness, to get the scope centered. It's a very cool tube. I think it's the same tube that's used in the Marantz 10B, that old vacuum tube tuner. It used a DG732 tube, and I think I might even have those in the back. I knew I tried to have a spare for myself. I don't know if I still do. Oh my gosh. And then what else we got? Oh, this is all about tape monitor stuff, and your friend would come over with his Revox, B77, and you would dub it off of your TAC 3440, as I recall, and you would dub back and forth. And there were other uses for it, but not such a big deal. What else? Oh, and then the bass and treble. You've got bass, mid-range, and treble. You had the ability to fine-tune the frequency at which the treble control worked, and the bass, or the bass treble control, or both of them at the same time. And that was very, very cool. But really what these were about, this big transformer here is fantastic, but it's a dual mono power transformer. It's a dual mono power supply. I don't think it's really truly dual mono all the way, but it is at least part of the way. It was really about every piece of this receiver being designed to sound the best that it could be. They were pushing the envelope in that way. It wasn't about the power. or just lowering THD. We know that those things are not important today. You know, it's got this fan on the back that's running all the time. But the way that they designed it, you look inside here, the output devices are on these really cool heat sinks, and they were scientifically designed to evacuate more heat to be much more effective and allow this fan to do its work. It's a 2-speed fan. At low speed, you don't hear anything. And it would very rarely, I've never seen one go to the high-speed mode, even when you're rocking and rolling. Man, what a deal. So look, I did this. I got the Technics SL1300. I'm like, I want to go get some platform shoes, right? I'm going to do a video about that because I want to explain to you the difference between the 1200 and the 1200 GR2 or whatever it is. I'm going to spell all that out and what you get for your money. Keep an eye out for that video. And look, come to our store. This is not your typical joint. We do have a lot of fun. I've got other vintage things on display. I got vintage tubes on display. I got 60s rock posters, man. I mean, all the stuff from Bill Graham and unused tickets from Woodstock. And it's really a feast for the eyes. And then the salespeople are not on commission. People come by. We had a bunch of people on Monday that just happened to be in town. And they are very, very welcome, as are you. At Upscale Audio, we're going to treat your system like it's ours. Thanks.